now I'm going to pull it up on my phone. Oh, there we go, dude. We're big time now.
Oh, we're big time now?
Yeah, well, not really, but like, you know. Alright, so that's just nothing, so let's remove that, and then, yeah, we'll just leave that as a screen, I guess. Big time now.
Oh, we're big time now?
Yeah, well, not really, but like, let's remove that, and then, yeah, I'll just leave that as a Yeah, we're just gonna leave leave the Big Mac as a screening thing. Alright, we got audio, and that's all that matters. I can hear you, you can hear me. And it should save. Ah. How do we intro this here? Should we do a drum roll or just start?
Um, I guess just kind of just a vocal intro. Just hey, this is our this is our podcast or something like that.
Hi guys, welcome to the NBA offseason preview show. Whoa, whoa, whoa! We're gonna tell you the wackiest news in sports. Wowzers!
Yeah, right. Like I would almost immediately click off that video. Now, what I am curious if I'm using
You're telling me we need to sound depressed like we actually are and authentic in that sense?
I mean, we can bring some excitement, but well, I do have so I'm using my computer's audio. So when you talk, like, can you hear yourself? Is there a reverb? Do I need to get a headset?
No, you're good. I got it's perfect. Are you hearing me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you fine. That's what I was, because I'm just like you can see. I just got my microphone sitting on top of your. I didn't know if I needed to lean back.
No, you're coming in crystal clear, man. Like you're perfect, man. Got like a little tranquility you got going on back there, with a little cabin in the woods, you know.
Oh yeah, thanks so much. I've got some deer on this side, and then in my pond there's some ducks that you can see swimming around there. So I'll try to shift from side to side. Yeah, I mean we're building stuff around Wembanyama. I'm excited.
Yeah, you have hope. I mean, I mean, we also have hope too because, like, you know, we won the title this year.
Yeah, that.
I don't know why I'm acting so doom and gloom. Like we won. You know.
You literally just predicted your team last time that we didn't record. But yeah, I think we're probably at least going to the finals 3 times.
Well, not 3. I think we'll at least get back
now,
next
what did you
year.
say? You said something like that East was guaranteed.
It's almost guaranteed. The Knicks did a move that actually is like, okay, that's pretty good. I actually like what you did there. You're still like have to put it together well. Like you're still a piece away, but you're getting closer, and like you got to get props when you see that. They're actually trying. They're not doing Knicks stuff. So you know, good on them. So, 2 things happened since we last talked. The Brooklyn Nets did a move that was I was kind of hinting at they were probably going to do a fire sale because they weren't going to do that. There was not much they could do with their roster currently. They didn't have any picks, so it just made sense to give up assets. and that's what they did. They traded Mikal Bridges for 5 firsts, 4 unprotected from the Knicks. The one protected pick is for the from the Bucks, um, and then they got Bohan Bogdanovic. Um, Now those Knicks picks, when I was first looking at it, I was like, wow, that's like the holy grail because the Knicks are gonna fuck that up somehow, you know. Um, but looking at the roster, they're pretty young. They're probably all those picks are probably gonna be in the later rounds. Um, Now there might be some later on, like those guys may leave. That gives you an opportunity, you know. But most of those picks are probably going to be late first round picks.
Yeah, yeah. I think I would similar analysis there.
Yeah. They do also get Bohan Bogdanovic with that. You can probably flip him for a first or maybe 2 firsts there. Um, Still, they got Ben Simmons, Cam Johnson, Cam Thompson to flip. Dorian Finney-Smith Jr. Um, so I mean they have a potential to get a lot of first or just a lot of draft picks from contending teams because there's a lot of good pieces on the team, um, uh, and I'm curious how this is a great first step. That's a lot of picks you can get from Mikal Bridges. Um, I'm. What's your thoughts on the trade?
Uh, yeah, just made a lot of sense for Brooklyn when you looked at their cap situation and you looked at their draft equity situation, and there was just no way forward. And so they had to make a move to, have some way to build their future. And so they created some cap space, but more importantly, they got some picks that they can decide to if they want to make another trade down the road, or if they want to try to use those picks to go young.
Yeah, exactly. It's giving them more weapons in the chamber to actually do things. Because right now they're stage one of the rebuild of like just getting talent. And they do have some chips to play because it is kind of a fresher rebuild they're doing here. Um, so, and in the other news that happened was the Bulls said that if they don't resign DeMar DeRozan, which is looking more and more likely, that they are going to blow it up. What is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think Bulls fans and certainly just kind of NBA observers have wondered why Chicago hadn't done that earlier. They've been middling in the lower seeds of the playoffs, vying
Mm-hmm.
for play-in games for a few years now, and so it just didn't seem like it was going anywhere. I always stand by. I appreciate when teams do what Chicago did, which is I say we're not just going to be terrible. We want to put
Mm-hmm.
a watchable product for our fans, and so I respect that. But there's a time limit on that. Eventually, I think fans are smarter, and while they appreciate teams trying to give them a competitive team, at some point it's like, well, this team isn't going anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
and we want to win a championship, and this team is they're not going to do it with this group, and so uh, I totally get the move for Chicago. Uh, they've already Giddy's an interesting piece to build around. I think so. And so I'm kind of curious to see what they do going forward. What are some of the assets that they can pick up for a guy like DeRozan, a guy like Levine, Vucevic, and of course, I don't know what you could get for Lonzo Ball at this point. Uh, uh, so curious to see what Chicago does going forward.
Well, DeRozan's a free agent, so like if they resign him, then they're gonna run it back, is what they're saying. But I mean, they offered him a deal for
Well,
two.
I mean, they could potentially do a sign and trade there.
Oh,
Kind of
true,
going
true.
back to the idea that a lot of teams, uh, if he has a particular destination that he wants to go, that could be a way to arrange that.
Okay, that makes sense because like the deal the Bulls offered him was 2 years for $40 million, $40 million a year, and he's not going to get that on the open market. I think he knows he's not going to get that on the open market, um, and the fact that like he's still thinking about leaving, I think if any team really offers him a chance to compete, he's probably looking for that. Um, I don't know what DeRozan's looking for at this point in his career. Because I don't think he can be a true star talent, but maybe he can be a contributing member on a championship team.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there. I'd agree with you there, and that's why I was very confused by reports earlier in the season that he was looking to resign or he anticipated that he would resign in the off season. That it didn't make a lot of sense to me when you look at I believe a 35-year-old player, 34 or 35-year-old player that's towards the tail end. He's put together some productive seasons in Chicago, and it appears he has a few more left to go. It would make more sense to make a run at a championship and be a real contributor on one of the title contenders or make someone into the conversation. If he's suddenly somebody's third best player, uh, than to just play for playing spots in Chicago.
Yeah, exactly. Um, Lonzo has said he's going to take a well. It is expected that he's going to take up his player option. That Lonzo hasn't said himself. It's more so coming from his camp.
Yeah, he's definitely going to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I just I'd be surprised. I mean, with his injury history, I don't know if he would get more than in the free agent market than what that player option would pay in Chicago.
Yeah. I'm very curious about Lonzo Ball because like the reason why the Bulls haven't blown it up for so long is because when Lonzo Ball was healthy, you had him and Alex Caruso just dogging everyone. DeMar DeRozan was good enough defensively, and he was having statistically an amazing year offensively. That they thought they honestly had a championship contender, and I disagree with that. I saw the other teams in the East, and I didn't think they were, but they were the one seed for good reason. And then Lonzo went through its stretch of injuries, and um, after that, that kind of ruined their title chances. And they've been middling ever since, mainly just hoping that Lonzo will come back and be at full strength. And he's not. They're saying he's hoping for an optimistic return in 2024, 2025, but he still wouldn't be back for the first month of the season. It's looking more so he'd be back by like in February of 2025. So at that point, I guess you have to opt in for the player option. If you're not going to be back until February, who's going to pay you?
Exactly, and yeah, at this point, if you're Lonzo, it's just about getting back on the basketball court consistently. And so we're all cheering for that. Like you said, he's a talented player when he's out there, and hopefully he still has some of that when he is able to return. But yeah, if you're Chicago, it probably is time to move on and look for a different point guard. And they went with with Giddy to see what they have in him,
Mm-hmm.
and some of the other young guards that they have there with DeSomo and White to see Kobe White to see how they play together, or if they want to move those guys and completely start over. But they're a little young. I'd be surprised if they did that.
Yeah, I think the top priorities are probably moving on from Nikolai Vucevic. You can't trade Lonzo Ball yet, but Vucevic and Zach LaVine. LaVine's 29. You do have him under wraps until 2027, and Vucevic you have him under contract for 2 more years. Um, but I imagine you don't want to be paying a max player when you're trying to tank. It just doesn't make sense. Vucevic, you're paying him $20 million a year to just kind of be good on offense but terrible on defense. They already got rid of Alex Caruso, which is a great starting point. That was probably their one of the more tradable assets they had. I saw there was reports for like 4 first-round picks, so it's kind of a shocker whenever they just traded him straight up for Josh Giddey. I think that kind of speaks to how valuable Josh Giddey could potentially be in most people's eyes.
That's one way to interpret it, and possibly I still tend to lean towards some of the analysis that uh, Chicago could have asked for some more picks in that deal, and given, like you said, just how first round picks seem to just kind of be tossed around in a lot of these trades, it was very weird
Mm-hmm.
to just see one player for one player straight up,
Yeah.
and so. Especially if you're going into a rebuild, if you're Chicago, that was like you just got Josh Giddey. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're trying to get picks at this point, and so with Levine and Vucevic, uh, I don't know if Vucevic is adding too many wins to your win total, but uh, you got to pay somebody. You got to reach a certain cap threshold. So. Uh, I guess as far as moving those players, the motivation would be uh, kind of how we had talked about the Nets uh, getting off those taking on bad contracts, and so you could potentially use those guys to get picks by taking on. If there's teams that have some contracts that they don't want, you have Levine is a massive contract, so you could probably take on a few uh, with him, or take on it if Brooklyn wants to get rid of Ben Simmons'
Mm-hmm.
expiring $40 million contract. You could do that one pretty close. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but pretty close to straight up.
Yeah,
Last
you
month.
could do it literally straight up because it's $40 million to $40 million. The problem is,
Okay.
I mean, like, I don't think Brooklyn's looking to compete at any time soon. And Levine, I mean, I guess if you're just trying to get him off the books as quickly as possible, you just do that trade because then Ben Simmons is a 1 year expiring deal. But I think Brooklyn's kind of in the same situation. But I get what you mean. You're just trying to get rid of this, trying to get off the books. I'm going to talk about the master class the Pistons did later on with how they handled their salary cap last year. It's truly inspirational what they did. Um, so the Bulls, they have the 11th pick this year. It and one of the worst draft classes ever. Who should the Chicago Bulls draft at number 11?
Well, around that area. So it kind of depends on where they go. So if they uh, lose DeMar DeRozan to free agency, potential players sitting there in the wing spot are Cody Williams out of Colorado, Ron Holland out of the G League, Jacoby Walter from Baylor. Uh, interesting. Another Colorado player, Tristan da Silva, could be another option for them. Um, if they're looking to go a little bit bigger, uh, to John Salone from France. I
Mm-hmm.
have no idea if I pronounced that correctly. So,
He's
uh,
French. No one cares.
and so whoa, whoa, whoa.
Oh no. I mean, no one cares. I mean, it's the French. I mean, you can have an Josh
Let,
Giddey's
let, let,
Australian,
let,
right?
let, let, let's not expound upon that
No, we're
anymore.
going to expand upon that.
Uh, um, so yeah, there's and everybody kind of has different. So kind of my favorite two guards in kind of guard. Well, I don't know if Chicago would look for a guard, so I take
Yeah,
that back.
because you'd have
But
Josh Giddey at that point. They're going to move off Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic. Um, they have him under contract for a long time, so I guess they don't have to look for an immediate deal. neither Zach Levine and Nikola Vucevic have said that. Well, they haven't asked for a trade, so that hasn't hurt their trade value. So they could hold on to them for a long time. So that would kind of factor into a draft pick there. So they would definitely be looking for a wing because that would not interfere directly with what the players they have the most money, because if they're getting paid that much, they got to play. Um, and that sounded like the kid from Denver. Is that correct? Jacoby?
The University of Colorado is in
Yeah.
Boulder, I believe.
Yeah.
But yeah,
The
Colorado, Colorado.
Colorado
Yeah.
kid.
Hmm.
He's a wing, correct?
Yes.
So he would probably be their pick. Um, you would have that. Lonzo Ball returns very late in the year, and then I would imagine they would be immediately trying to trade him if he gets healthy before the trade deadline. He'd probably get traded as soon as he becomes healthy. Uh,
Yeah. I mean, that's certainly a move. Because you look at the roster, it's not really for sure. Now, I mean, I I guess if he was willing to accept a backup point guard role, if injuries had deteriorated his play,
hmm
uh, similar to oh gosh, I'm blanking. He was the number two pick behind Andrew Wiggins
Oh,
and in Milwaukee, I believe, and had some injuries. But anyway, yeah, I can't. Totally blanking. But
Jabari Parker.
Jabari Parker, Jabari Parker, kind of where
Dude.
later in his later
Sorry.
in his career he was able to be effective, just taking a kind of more of a like, hey, I'm still like kind of athletic and I'm always 6'8", right?
hmm
So
It's
um,
kind of crazy how high expectations we had for Jabari Parker and Andrew Wiggins, and how they just never panned out. Um, Jabari, we were like, this is the most NBA ready player, but Andrew Wiggins has the highest ceiling. He's going to be the next LeBron. And then, like, you just kind of watched him play, and it's like, oh, it's the same. He never really developed beyond being raw, you know.
yeah, I mean that was always the risk, and that's why some argued for taking Jabari Parker. They said, look, he's NBA ready, and he's going to get better. Whereas with Wiggins, like, yeah, he's the better athlete, higher potential, but we've been talking about this guy's potential since he was at Huntington Prep, and it's been the same thing. His motor at Huntington Prep, his motor at Kansas, and so as we've seen in the NBA, his motor, his energy, desire to get better, became a question, and so that ended up playing out there, and so that's a good transition to looking at these prospects. If you're Chicago, a player I would throw at you, a guy like Dalton Connect from Tennessee.
Oh, yeah.
He's a wing that I kind of withheld from mentioning because he's a little bit older player coming out of Tennessee,
I mean, he's just
and so
24, right?
not quite 20, maybe 23, I think, but I don't have it in front of me. But I don't know if Chicago would go that way if they literally are like they haven't even started, or year one rather, of their rebuild. I don't know if they kind of want this like ready-made, kind of role player. Is the way I project him. Others may see him higher than that, but I do think he's a guy that has a definitive role in the NBA that can play for a long time. I mean, I can make open threes. You can run me off a screen. I can make that shot. So I can in pace and space world, like, yeah, we got a spot
hmm
for you on every roster. But if you're Chicago, it's like, well, that doesn't really like we don't need a piece.
Yeah,
like,
I
you
need a
know,
star.
yeah,
And
exactly, and so I don't know if they would go that way or not, but they might pass up on a solid player like Connect, or potentially solid player like Connect, and so what do you think on that? I mean, you think Chicago, is it just kind of hey, let's just get the best player where we're sitting at here, or do you think that they would be more likely to roll the dice?
I mean, like you might as well roll the dice, but I think they're more so like playing it safe. I think Dalton Connect would be kind of the guy they would go with. I something boring and bland seems to be kind of Chicago style, where like you can see the direct results immediately, like what they're gonna do. It's kind of a plug piece. Um, yeah, Dalton Connect would be a good pick for him. Um, one dumb idea that I think I mentioned this last time. I really want Ben Simmons on this roster with Josh Giddey, just because I just want to see um, just a bunch of guys that are really good at passing the ball, who can't shoot, and run really fast.
Just to see if length and athleticism and defense can can uh, can win you. It's not quite as extreme as what you mentioned there, but I guess kind of what the Knicks are building towards. I don't know if we'll get to them today, but got any more on Chicago? I've got some kind of stretch fours that they could roll the dice on if we want to go there, or if we want to save that.
Let's say that I'm more so wondering what is the market for Zach LaVine and Nikolai Vucevic.
Hmm.
It,
Um. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say there's not that many teams out there right now that need a kind of just a guy who can only really score well, and even then it's kind of inefficient. Like Zach LaVine's kind of a step below Bradley Beal, and even then he's not panning out for the Suns. Um, Vucevic has definitely lost some steps, so like I don't know what his trade value is, because he would be a valuable guy coming off the bench. But who has $20 million in cap space to pay for a bench guy? He maybe you can have him as a starter, if but like you have to run a slower system, and then that kind of takes you out of what's happening now with the league, where it's kind of a faster pace, or you can switch your style up, and like I mean that's kind of why the Bucks aren't winning, because they have Burke Lopez and they're trying to get off him, and he's a lot better version of Vucevic. So
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Contracts would be the biggest deterrent, and you had really zeroed in on Vucevic, so I'll just zero in on Levine, where I thought that was a really good line there. That he's kind of a tier below a Bradley Beal type, and I guess there's some arguing on the margins there, but at the end of the day, you're talking about a guy that's a little over 20 points a game. He's actually efficient shooting numbers, particularly from three. But it's not somebody that could be relied on. I would argue to if you're trying to make a playoff run, I would not want to rely on Zach LaVine to be my one of my scorers. That we need some points. Let's go, because that's been something that has frustrated as a DeRozan fan. So I've watched a few Chicago games and their playoff games that was always frustrated by. It's like, come on, he needs some help out here. And the Vucevic playoff woes have been well documented going back to his Orlando days, and Levine in Chicago. Every time I watch him play, I'm like, is he out there? Where is he? And you're talking about $40 million for a I forgot he was out there kind of player. Yeah, I don't know,
mm-hmm.
teams that would want to make that bet. I mean, I don't know, if they're saying, well, change the scenery or a different role, it might ignite something. His shooting would be really enticing, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the market would be. And like
Yeah,
and to the point you said, who has $40 million to I mentioned Brooklyn earlier. I mean, maybe if they want to really move off Ben Simmons, that your fantasy scenario might actually
yes,
happen if Chicago just
yeah, but
really
then,
looking to miss it out. And, and
just to get off his contract would be just to trade him to get an expiring. You'd have to give up first, but you get rid of his contract. So I went and I was like, I'm curious what the Zach LaVine trade market is. First article: Kings need to be incentivized to take Bulls star. The trade was just going to be Harrison Barnes and Zach LaVine straight up, but the Kings went first from it. You're telling me Harrison Barnes is your market? You can't get anything else for Zach LaVine?
Yeah, if that were the trade, that wouldn't make sense for Chicago if they're trying to get younger to then go get Harrison Barnes, uh, unless they thought that they really had something in Giddy and was looking for a quick rebuild. But uh, yeah, I mean, I guess if Sacramento is prepared to lose Malik Monk, then they would want to, and they are kind of ready to move on from Kevin Herter. Then uh, Levine would be an interesting co-star to try to entice. The news just broke, I think yesterday, that De'Aaron Fox was looking to really putting some pressure on Sacramento's front office to say, hey, I'm really thinking about leaving. And I want to see what you all do with some roster moves this off season before I sign anything else.
Yeah. I do want to mention Malik Monk did sign a deal for 4 years, $78 million yesterday.
Oh gosh! Oh
Yes.
yeah, I'm sorry, I totally missed that.
No, you're good, man. I just learned that they're actually going to have a ceremony celebrating Malik Monk in the city of Sacramento today as well. I had to double check that just to make sure because I was like, but uh, uh, also Kevin Huter would be included in that potential trade. The Bulls are actively looking for shopping Zach LaVine around. They have been shopping him around for 2 years. It's just that his contract is so not in proportion to his actual value that he adds. It makes it hard. It's kind of like Bradley Beal's max contract, where he's a very good player, but at that max rate, it just doesn't make sense to make him, unless you're looking for a third star, it doesn't make sense to really blow up everything for him. And no one's really at that point.
Does Chicago pull a reverse card and try to jump into the Paul George trade rumors?
You know what? They could, but I'm pretty. Paul George, how old is he? 36.
35, I believe.
And he has multiple injuries. I mean, I guess you could. You would have a good. You could offer Vucevic and Zach LaVine plus first to the Clippers, and that would be a good deal for him. But then you have a team of Josh Giddey and Paul George, and no real way to capitalize on that to make that a championship team. So if you're fine with just kind of being a 6 seed, that's your move.
Chicago holds steady.
True, yeah. If you just want to hold, I mean, you can also just hold steady and hope to win a championship by not doing anything. I think that's the bigger issue is you have to get off of Zach LaVine or Nikolai Vucevic just because otherwise you're still a playing team and then you're picking 10th or 11th and you can't get that superstar to win you a title.
Yeah, I'm literally going alphabetical order in my head now because that's a really good Zach LaVine with the Milwaukee Bucks. Is there a panic move where they try to move Middleton and pair Giannis and Lillard and say, well, let's go get Zach LaVine. Maybe he can a little bit different game.
Well, the thing is, right now, it's can you get Damian Lillard, Giannis to buy in to stay in Milwaukee? And that's kind of.
That's what I'm arguing.
This is the off season, so
Milwaukee, they're looking to, hey, what can we do to improve the team? What can we do and they're not going to trade Giannis.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're going to look at Lillard as a potential, like scapegoat type target. That leaves Middleton, and
Yeah.
Middleton is kind of an easy scapegoat. Like when you start playing it out that way, and I wonder if they talk themselves into like, should we trade Middleton and this and that for Levine? And we can say, well, Levine's more athletic, he's younger,
Mm-hmm.
and when you can see him. No, I don't know. I'd have to look. It kind of depends on who's involved in the trade and how that would all go down before we can have any serious roster ramifications discussion. But uh,
I mean, I think you're right that
yeah.
they should probably move off Middleton, but like I don't think they will. There's four names that are always floated around in Milwaukee deals. Well, not, I guess not four names. Their 23rd first round pick this year, Pat Connaughton, which is like okay, and Bobby Portis, like he's good, and then Brooke Lopez. Like that changes your identity. That's kind of your core of the team. That really the soul. But like you need to do that to change because they need to speed up their offense. So Chris Middleton would. I feel like if you offered those four assets and they're really trying to get off Zach LaVine, you could do that. You would also need to flip Chris Middleton at some point. I wouldn't use it on Zach LaVine or Nikola Vucevic. But
That's fair.
yeah. Like Chris Middleton, that could be used to get Paul George. Oh, that's an interesting trade. I just thought trade Paul George, Pat Connaughton, Bobby Portis, and your first, and then probably other first. You can probably get Paul George because everyone's in the sweepstakes for that. And then looks like KD's on the market now too. So um,
Yeah, how about that development? Um, who do you think would be in the market for DeMar DeRozan?
oh man, because like a lot of teams, like he would be an amazing coming off the bench scorer. But
Oh,
so
coming off the bench.
yeah, not to disrespect him, but like if he could be on a championship
But I'm
team.
just straight disrespecting right now.
Well, no, no, I'm not. I'm not saying like he can't start. Honestly, like right now, like the Nuggets, KCP turned down his player option. If he signs a vet minimum exception, gets paid 15 mil a year, he can go there. But I mean that massively undercuts the value. I mean, instead of getting 40 million a year, you can go to the Nuggets. But if he came off the bench for a team, gets paid 20 to 30 mil. Um, I mean, the Suns need a guy. Houston needs a guy. Well, Houston kind of has Jalen Suggs. He's not that elite, but he does fulfill the role and it would be cheaper. So, Warriors are trying to get off Chris Paul like their life depends on it because it really does. Um, man, DeMar would be great on the Knicks, but they don't have the money or cap space. Bucks need a guy, but they don't have the cap space.
What about Miami?
Miami would be. Well, the thing is with Miami is that they have a bunch of like, if you can't play defense, you're off the team, and even though they desperately need scoring in their offense, um, and I think DeRozan would be kind of an okay fit there. Um, I don't see DeRozan being like I love heat culture, you know.
Sure, sure. That's why I would be very fascinated to see him next to Embiid and Maxey in Philadelphia.
Oh, actually, yeah, that's the perfect fit.
Because I'm thinking about all those shots that Tobias Harris took, and it would be a little bit different role. It would be a different role, but kind of the number of shots and kind of how he played off those two guys and substituting DeRozan there, and that intrigues me.
Yeah.
I think that they're looking for that kind of guy, and it would kind of fit that mold of here's a potential title contender, or at least that's what they're trying to do. And he wouldn't be the number one guy. Obviously that's Embiid's team, and look, Lamar's been up, 25 points a game in the last 2 seasons. So, like,
Oh
he's
yeah,
still
I mean
got some
he
game
still
left.
has it. I think the two best fits that we said here was actually what you just said. The Sixers would be probably the best fit, um, especially if they can get Paul George with that too. Then we got like a super team going on there. Um, the other one I would say would be the Nuggets, if they can get him. Uh, Levine is still the weirdest guy out of the bunch, where it's just like I don't know who would want to make that deal with themselves. Um,
I think you're right on that as well. Just like, at least with DeRozan, you're like, hey, like, this guy is you know, 25 points a game for all star type player. And it's actually only, I've got it pulled up here, it's actually only 34 years old. Um, so he's still, you know,
yeah, 2 years.
you know. And so, yeah, whereas, like you said, with Levine, it's like, that's a lot of money for just a guy that I'm not really for sure what I'm getting night to night.
Mm-hmm. So,
And oh, go ahead.
uh, no, go ahead, because I was gonna change the conversation.
Well, I just wanted to spend a little bit more on my guy, DeMar DeRozan, the way his playmaking has developed.
Mm-hmm.
Going back, I watched that happen in San Antonio, and he has kind of added that to his game, and not just 24 points last season, but 5 assists as well. And so I would be interested to see, just going back to Philadelphia or anywhere he lands, kind of that playmaking element that he could bring to somebody as well.
Yeah. Now I think we talked a bunch there, and but at the end of the day, though, no one else is gonna pay him 40 million a year. So I think he might just end up going back to Chicago, and then everything we just talked about for the past 30 minutes doesn't mean it. Jack shit. Because if he goes back, they said they're not going to blow it up; they're running it back, and it puts. And you look at Chicago, and you're like, well, then you're going to be an ace seed for 2 to 3 years, and then it's very painful. I you really hope he doesn't go back there, so they can go ahead and they can finally put the dog down, and start the rebuild. Um, in fairness, the Spurs went through a dry spell themselves after they won a title. There was like 6 years, I believe, in between or was it 7 years between the um, 2007 title and 2013 title or 2014 title.
Uh, yeah, 7 years, 2007, 2014.
Yeah. So so maybe they're a piece away from turning this into a title team. I don't think adding DeMar DeRozan back fixes the glaring issues with the team. It def it it needs they need to put it down. They need to start their rebuild, and they just kind of keep pushing it off.
Oh, that's a really good point. Yeah, tomorrow returning to Chicago, it doesn't make sense for either side
Well, it
because
makes sense for DeMar because then he's getting paid 40 million a year, and I can't blame a guy for wanting his bag. Like no one else is going to pay him that. He's hoping
uh,
to.
I mean,
What?
I think he'll get. I mean, Chicago can offer him more than other teams, but uh, I would imagine that he could get somewhere. Like, he's not going to be certainly under market on free agent, especially with this free agent class. I mean, I'm not really for sure kind of who's going to be involved in it. So I don't know if getting paid, but I see your overall point that if Chicago can offer him the most money, that I guess that would be considered a win. But it doesn't really uh, match either Chicago's timeline if they're trying to rebuild, or DeRozan if he's trying to still be relevant. I would argue.
Yeah, you don't want. I don't think any team's going to offer him more than 25 million a year. I could be wrong on that. It's just looking at the cap situation for all the teams. Um, that seems about to be right. Um, Chicago can offer him more. That he might be bargaining, hopefully, to get more because I think he can get up to 46 million a year, and that would definitely make sure stays in Chicago. But I mean, 40 million a year for 2 years, then you can go off and maybe win a title when you're 36. I mean, personally, if I played basketball, I would just want the most money possible. I don't care where I played. Whoever could pay me the most, I'd be there. And Chicago's a cool town too. So now on to the second, the Cavs. I'm going to talk about the Cavs, and it's kind of they're at a weird point where they can either win a title this offseason or go back to being irrelevant, and it's really make or break this offseason.
Yeah, I'm interested in your comment there that they can make a run at a title. Because while I respect what Cleveland is doing, they got a good team there. It kind of feels like they're just on that tier below, maybe a tier even below that of uh, you know just kind of being a 4 or 5 seed. They can be a pest to a team like Boston, or any other, Milwaukee, or someone you might consider a contender, but not a team that you would legitimately say, hey, I think they're going to go to represent the East in the NBA Finals.
So, why they can win a title or lose a title? They have the most amount of tradable assets that you would want on your team. They just signed Kenny Atkinson, who was a fantastic assistant for the Warriors. I've always believed that he would be a great head coach. He'd only take opportunity where he thinks he can win. He can. So Donovan Mitchell hates Cleveland, and the team hates Donovan Mitchell. They have to trade him. What I'm worried that the Cavs will do is that they will let this situation grow and fester to the point where they're having to, that it comes to the trade deadline and they have to make a deal, and then they don't get the assets required for them to build upon, which is what all signs are pointing to, that they're going to try to get Donovan Mitchell to calm down and get the team to like him. I don't know what happened. I don't know if Donovan Mitchell came in one day and just started pissing in everyone's Cheerios, but they do not like him there.
Yeah, it kind of seems to be the worst kept secret, in the NBA, right? And so, those things you're always going to get undervalued for. I mean, everyone, once you start trading away a player like Donovan, like, you're not going to get equal value back. And so, I'm with you. I like the hiring of Kenny Atkinson. I think he got a lot out of that Brooklyn team. But as far as being a title contender, I don't see how that happens this particular off season. But
So this is
I do think. Oh,
where,
go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah. So they have so Donovan Mitchell, even though he has ruined his trade value a little bit, but the media leaks have ruined the trade value. It's still Donovan Mitchell at the end of the day, and you can get a lot for him. He's still a very highly requested target. Now, with the development of Evan Mobley, you have a defensive star in the making who also is very good offensively, so that you now can move off of Jared Allen. and they're actually looking to trade him. If you have a choice, you can also move off of Karis LeVert, who's a very good scorer. Max Strus doesn't make too much sense with your team, but he's a very good 3-and-D guy. Well, not so much on the D, but he's still getting recognition for that, so you can actually move off of him as well. Now, if you decide to keep Donovan Mitchell and trade Darius Garland, that would be probably the better idea, but you kind of need Donovan Mitchell to make sure he signs that deal. Because right now he has 1 more year on his contract and then a player option. Darius Garland is locked in for 4 years. 3 years now. You could trade Garland and get some assets for it, and then the trade market would be a lot better for Garland since Donovan Mitchell said he doesn't hate Cleveland. Or you'd be more safe and make sure you just I'm getting a player who actually wants to be here and doesn't hate the city itself, and you trade Mitchell. Either way, you have a lot of tradable assets here, including a couple firsts you can work with that you can really craft a team, especially since seems there's a lot of all-stars on the market right now that are free to go and get. You can probably do a Donovan Mitchell for Paul George and get picks from the Clippers if they have any. You might be able to just do that straight up, to be honest with you. You could probably do some Karis LeVert, Jared Allen deals to potentially even get Paul George or another asset. Right now there's rumors that they're trying to get Cam Johnson, who I think is a very good, undervalued star that is on the Nets. You can turn that, pair him with Darius Garland, and then you have a really high... they'll develop to a championship team at that rate, but they can do a lot of things to put them in position to win this offseason, but they can do so much more to take them out of contention as well. And it's a carefully, it is a tight wire situation that they're trying to walk across.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if there's a way to convince Donovan Mitchell that he's like, hey, actually, I want to be here long term, it doesn't seem likely at this point. I would throw out there if Minnesota is looking to make a kind of a big time move and say we don't think Cat can pair with Edwards as the second best player going forward. We're gonna roll the dice with Mitchell and just play Mitchell and Edwards and Gobert, and that's our three. And I think that would be really exciting with the way Atkinson coached the Nets back in the day. Kind of playing that faster, more open style. I would be fascinated to see, Garland and Towns and Mobley and kind of these athletes running up and down the court. That would be a fun team. We might have to go up to Cleveland and catch them play. That would be a fun style of play to watch. I'm trying to think of who else you might get back for Mitchell on that one, or just looking around the NBA. Like you said, if you're just looking to acquire pieces rather than star for star type of thing, pieces and picks, which is probably the best way for Cleveland to go forward. Is because Atkinson has proven he can coach young players and get the most out of them and develop them. Then I would be interested to see him with a young, hungry, athletic roster running up and down the court.
Oh, wow. So this, as of today, I just started checking the rumors. Kenny Atkinson is meeting with both Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. They are not pursuing a trade at this time. They were actually actively shopping Darius Garland before today. Same way with Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell is capable of having the largest max extension in NBA history if he stays with the Cavs. And I think that may have changed the mood about the situation. Um,
Well, we've seen that before, where it's possible that guys, like you said, they're the way the contracts are set up, the home team can offer a larger deal if they stay there long enough. And so what we've seen is guys they sign that deal and then say, okay, now I want to be traded. And so
mhm.
that still might be in play, but yeah, hopefully they can work that out. I mean, hopefully for Cavs fans anyway. I mean, he's an exciting player, talented player. And him and Garland were fun to watch. And I watched that Cavs Magic series.
Mhm.
They were fun to watch in that, but as we saw in the next round, there was kind of a limit,
Yeah, I mean,
uh,
there's a ceiling with that duo
a
there.
ceiling rather. Yeah,
Uh, like
and
they
I
need
think a
to.
lot of it
Oh, go ahead.
has to do with I don't think you can play Mobley and Allen together, and hopefully they realize that, and so I don't know if it's it kind of instead of looking to trade the guards, I would look to see if Allen or Mobley and what you can get out of, and probably if you're looking to go younger, it would be trading Allen.
Yeah, there's a lot of rumors around trading Allen. I mean, I really hope he ends up as a Boston Celtic, but he is getting paid 20 million a year, so I don't see that happening. Um, but they are trying to trade Jared Allen. They are trying to trade Karis LeVert. I think they should trade Max Strus. There's not any rumors around that. I do think they still should probably move off of Garland or Donovan Mitchell because they're kind of a redundancy in the same role. Um, they're both really good scorers and they're both really good playmakers. Um, you just need someone that's a little bit better defensively instead of Garland. Maybe he can develop that in this game. They're both very capable of doing it. Um,
Well, one of their restricted free agents, and their restricted free is Isaac
Isaac
Okoro,
Okoro, yes, they need to get
uh,
him back.
who they drafted for that particular role to be this 6'5" perimeter defender, and hopefully his shooting comes along. So that might be a player again, a young player that they decide to keep and develop, which I think is the best strategy for these small market teams like Cleveland, where when you draft a player like it's not what it's not necessarily an
Hmm.
asset. It's like, hey, like we're looking to develop this player, and so uh, see if they can get him back. I don't know if anybody would try to um, bid them on that, but we'll see.
Yeah. What would you say would be Darius Garland's market? Who would trade for him?
Hmm. Uh, I think he's kind of like what you had mentioned. You look at the guards around the league. He's just below kind of that first tier and somewhere in that second and third tier of players uh, in the league. And so what you would be getting is an 18 points a game, uh, 6.5 assists on 46% shooting, which is really good for a guard. And so really a talented combination of scoring and playmaking, and that's always in demand. And so I think there would be a variety of teams that would look or that would at least be interested. Um, the rate of return
Hmm.
on a guy like Garland, I never know with these trades, especially picks. I have no idea how many picks are supposed to be included in anything. Um, but uh, yeah, I think his skill set is always in demand. It's like, yeah, I can break my defender down and go score, but I can also create for others as an unselfish player and someone that can read a defense. And so uh, I think he can help out a lot of teams.
Yeah, I think he would be a very good piece for most teams. Um, and I sorry. So maybe the Raptors are like. I feel like he's a great piece for a team that would be starting a rebuild. Or I just don't know if he fits with. I mean, with Kenny Atkinson, it could work still. It just there seems to be beef between those two, and that's kind of getting in the way of their play. Plus, they're willing to stay there. But I mean, Donovan Mitchell is definitely getting hit with the big money trick right now. So um, I think if they do stay together, that kind of just puts them back to where the status quo. They can probably get to the conference finals if they make the right moves of getting off of Jared Allen and bringing someone in. Looks like they're just going to be able to get Cam Johnson today for a couple first round picks, which would be a great pickup for them. Um,
Yeah, and so that to me, I think he usually plays the four in Brooklyn.
mm-hmm,
So that may be an indication that they're looking for a new starting four-man in Cleveland. And so
mm-hmm,
uh, kind of that talk about, so you would either in that case they're trading Mobley, or they're looking to trade Allen and move Mobley down to the five, which would make a lot of sense for both sides there.
yeah.
And so the experiment of two 7-footers that don't shoot the ball all that well is over, hopefully, in Cleveland, and they're looking to move on to be more competitive. Because it's one thing to be at a talent disadvantage, which they are, against teams like Boston, against teams like Milwaukee, uh, to an extent, Philadelphia and New York. And now you're at a strategic disadvantage as well, playing an outdated style of play and clogging the lane for your smaller guards where they have nowhere to go when they drive. So hopefully they can clean that up and even open up their offense even more for their talented stars.
Yeah. Um, would you say yes to this trade? Garland, Jared Allen for Paul George. No picks.
Garland and Jared Allen for Paul George. So from Cleveland's standpoint, I'm giving up Garland, I'm giving up Allen, I'm getting George. That's kind of tough, given George age. But if you're trying to win right away, that he kind of feels um, some interesting boxes that they're looking to check as far as size on that perimeter spot. And presumably you could play him at the three alongside a Coro, and maybe at the four. And you can mess around with it,
Mm-hmm.
and then you would get on Allen. I feel like Pick should be involved somewhere in here. I uh, from the Clippers standpoint, that's a really good return for a guy like Paul George to get Garland. Um, you kind of leave him in an interesting spot to have both Allen and Zubac
Mm-hmm.
on the same team, but you can always figure that out later. And so that would give him. Again, there's some. Is there enough basketballs for Garland and Harden and
Oh, Harden's
uh,
expiring, or was it either expiring or requested a trade? I forget.
expiring? But that's. I was assuming they would bring. I'm assuming they're bringing everybody back if they can, or their main Harden and George if they can. I would be surprised if they did it because I'm not for sure what their other. I mean, just letting those players walk in free agency doesn't,
Uh,
unless they
well,
suddenly became concerned about
basically
money.
they're so far above the cap, and like that Steve Ballmer doesn't want to pay it. So like if Paul
That
George,
doesn't.
yeah, so Paul George, he says they offered him a deal. He wants it super max, and they are not. They're not budging.
Well, that's kind of might be more Paul George specific than and because that doesn't sound a lot like Ballmer, kind of just suddenly not wanting to build the best team possible because of money. That to me kind of seems more like just making a smart business decision where it's like, wait a minute, like, come on, man, you're 35 years old. Like, we can't give you a 4-year max deal. Like, that's just,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
that.
At the end of the day, it's just kind of like he's paid a lot of money for players that when they do play are some of the best in the league, but it's key when do they play. Um,
Exactly.
they're always injured, and like he's upgraded the medical staff a bunch of times. I don't know what's wrong there besides maybe they're cursed, and I think he's done with it. I think he wants to move on from everyone involved. I think he'd trade Kawhi Leonard if he could, but he's injured right now.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. If we could do a sign and trade, that would make sense. Yeah, I mean, I guess personnel wise, I mean, you could sell that if you again you still have to keep Leonard, but that's an interesting team. Uh, Garland and Leonard, and then again, I still think there's some unfinished moves there if that's their trade, so that might uh, kind of be what dissuades it is that they'd still have more moves to make after that. But and again, like I said, I don't know how many picks, but I feel like somebody would be asking for picks there.
Yeah. So Cavs, they're looking to be championship hopefuls. Let's go ahead and I guess move on to the next people up here, the Dallas Mavericks, who just made the NBA championship. Um, you know what? I looked at the roster and I was like, this is very funky. I remember thinking that when they played, like they didn't really have a true three. They're going to trade away Tim Hardaway Jr. to looks like the Detroit Pistons, which is hilarious to me. Um,
You
they
know who they're getting back for that?
so I think I should go ahead and talk about this. So the Detroit Pistons, what they do, because they know they're bad, they will have the team pay for half of that guy's salary, but the full cap amount will go against them. Um, so that's how they get around that like cap threshold, because otherwise you pay like a very high penalty for it. So they actually have the lowest payroll in the league. They're not paying for most of the guys, but they have a bunch of dead cap on their salary cap. Um, so in that exchange for Tim Hardaway, they're gonna give him like second round picks. It's just a cap move to get him off the Mavs.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, well, so trading away Hardaway, they do looks like kind of their main free agent is Derek Jones,
Mm-hmm.
who I guess started the three for them. It was a key piece for them, offering athleticism and defense alongside Luca and Kyrie. Just kind of an athletic freak. Just going
Yeah.
up there catching lobs, and so that gave Luca an option there. To literally put your wing in the dunker spot. That was an interesting. Uh, kind of threw defenses off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you're Dallas, what do you do? Because you don't want to just say, well, let's just run it all back. Um, so you're making changes on the margins,
Mm-hmm.
and so you watched more Dallas than I did this year. What were some of their weaknesses, and how might
So
they go about addressing that this offseason?
they had three. They only had so Tim Hardaway Jr. was unplayable, was the biggest issue, and that's why they're doing the deal with the Pistons right now, where they're going to give up probably some picks to Detroit just so they can absorb his contract, and they're also going to pay for him to go there. Um, and it led to Derrick Jones Jr. being the only guy, and even then he was an athletic freak who can hit threes and play good defense, but he was kind of like a four playing the three spot. And that was PJ Washington at times would play the three. Daniel Gafford, Maxi Kleber, Derek Lively. I mean, it was common to see a lineup with PJ Washington at the three, Gafford at the four, Kleber at the five, and or Derek Lively at the five. They need a true wing on the team, and they don't have it at this time. Um, I don't know how they would go about acquiring one because PJ Washington needs to be more so at the four than at the three. Um, they they need to probably move Gafford or Kleber or Derek Lively, whoever would have the better value, I guess, and try to get a true wing. It hurt him in the playoffs, and I I think the better question is based off just kind of like the finals performance. Should they move off of Kyrie?
Oh, I wasn't gonna go there. I was gonna start a little smaller. Watching the
And then
finals.
destroying the team.
Yeah, just watching the finals. I don't know. Uh, did Boston send Maxi Kleber like just a complimentary like, hey, thanks for that championship? I mean,
No, they sent that to the entire team besides Luka Doncic and Kyrie.
he
And
was.
even Kyrie, they sent him a couple bouquets.
I mean, he was pretty rough out there, and in the Minnesota series was
Mm-hmm.
not playable either. I don't think there's much of a trade value necessarily. I don't have his contract in front of me. I mean, is that something they could move off of uh, to acquire a pick this year in the latter first round? Just to they had some success with Lively last year
Yes.
picking in the first round, earlier there in the first round. But
Mm-hmm.
you're talking about a wing just looking to pick up. Sounds like they just need a body out there. Um,
Well, not necessarily a body, just someone who can. They need a 3-and-D wing, and that can also somewhat play make. Because PJ Washington is their best version of that. Maybe he needs to develop more as well. Um, because if Luka and Kyrie are your two playmakers, that's good. But if they force the ball out of their hands, um, PJ Washington becomes that next guy, and he often just kind of shits in his pants. He does not want the ball in his hands. That's in a decision where he if he gets the ball, he either wants to score or there needs to be an obvious outlet pass. If there's anything that's more complicated than that, he shits his pants.
gotcha. So that's an interesting uh, position there. So it sounds like they're looking for a particular type of player, and that arguably one of the hardest to find.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like I can shoot, I can play defense at a high level, and I can create. But I don't want a max contract. That
Yeah, that's the issue. Where it's like,
yeah,
well, they
I
can
don't.
they can have another max contract guy, like a Paul George, but they need to create the cap space to do that. Like, I think they may have cap space, honestly, looking at their roster, because it looks like they can have another max contract guy.
Yeah, I don't think they have to necessarily go that route. Um, I thought what made looking at the championship team, Boston, and what they were able to do is they were able to morph into different teams with kind of how deep they were
Mm-hmm.
based on who they were playing. And, championship teams are able to do that. And so I don't think it's necessarily that they need to find that one player that does it all, but more necessarily players that fit a particular matchup. And so when they play against teams that are a little bit bigger, then PJ at the three can work for a little for certain stretches. And so I would argue bringing back Derek Jones. I thought he was really good for them. Uh, but maybe a smaller wing that's a little quicker and brings more passing and ball handling than what PJ can bring.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, at a league, vet minimum type contract deal, or something around the $10 to $15 million range,
Mm-hmm.
where it's coming off the bench kind of role, or possibly a starter, depending on the matchup. Whereas looking to make a major move, I mean, I understand, like, you can't be complacent. You made it to the finals, but you didn't win it. But I don't think I wouldn't want to overreact either, and look at Kyrie, or look to make major changes when it seems like their issue was just they needed one more creator, but you can go find that.
Yeah. Um. Honestly, like, he didn't do too well here at Kentucky, but Justin Edwards would be kind of the piece that they would be looking for, like the player he was like sold to Kentucky as, um, would be the ideal, like, what they needed. Um, there are times where like their offense can stick. I mean, it's very Luka or Kyrie centric, and that's fine. Um, it's more so if teams are able to force the ball out of their hands where it becomes the issue.
Yeah, so one more scorer and creator, but you can go find that without necessarily having to go find the next complete player that
Yeah.
defends and passes and dribbles. Looks like a particular role, and there's a guy we had just talked about in the last discussion. It sounds like they could use a the guy on Cleveland.
Well, yeah.
Let's see.
The thing is that also has to be the size of a wing, so they need to be 6'6" to 6'8", because that kind of fits the Mavs' versatile
No,
defensive
I'm
scheme.
not talking about Garland. I'm talking about oh gosh, he played for the Nets. Came to Cleveland. Uh,
Oh, Cam Thompson.
no, he's on Cleveland now.
Oh,
Let me hold on.
shit. We were just talking about them.
Yeah, we were just talking about him.
Let's scroll up here. Struess?
Karis LeVert.
Oh yeah, Karis LeVert would be perfect for him. Uh, yeah, yeah, just someone like that would push them over the edge. Because at the end of the day, they are a championship team. They just need like an extra inch. Um, like, like I said, they can afford to get another max guy if they wanted to. There's enough cap space to allow that. If not, they would need at bare minimum a Karis LeVert guy, just someone that can switch on the bigs, that can also dunk the ball, and occasionally make a playmaking decision, as well as hit threes.
Well,
That's
now
just
that would be the flip side of it. Is so again, you're not looking for a necessarily complete player in this spot. I mean, that's kind of why they're filling a role.
mm-hmm.
I mean, he's not Levert isn't the kind of guy. He's not going to bring you much defensively. That's
Well,
kind of gotten
then
him.
that doesn't help. They
But he
they
isn't.
they at the end of the day, I think they just need another star. And because I keep talking it, and it's like, well, what they were missing is like, okay, they needed a guy that was defensive, that can switch on to multiple people, a guy that can hit threes, and a guy who can make a playmaking decision. He doesn't necessarily have to dribble and put the ball on the floor, but he could drive to the basket and dunk it. And like that, I keep talking, and that's just, well, what I'm describing is kind of like a Paul George, Chris Middleton type, and that's a they need a third option for scoring. at the end of the day. That's just what it is. That could Bradley Beal would not be the perfect size. Zach LaVine doesn't fit that mold. Um, Unless you got rid of Kyrie Irving and did it something else. It just kind of they need another guy who is uh, who is very good.
I mean, maybe. They. It sounds like well, you're arguing for a talent upgrade. 'Cause, I thought how you opened it was spot on, where they expected and Tim Hardaway had previously filled a particular role. Now, you know,
Mm-hmm.
there was, he was had some injuries there, and maybe that factored in, and we'll see. He comes back next season. It's like, oh yeah, there's Tim Hardaway Jr.
Well,
Uh,
the
but
thing was is like they switched the defensive scheme as well. It's very aggressive now. That's kind of why they have a bunch of bigs that they switch a lot, and that Tim Hardaway doesn't play defense that well. And it was so bad he got taken out. That could be because of injuries, but he also never really played defense that well.
okay, yeah. Then like a lot of the league, they're looking for a 3D. Then sure, Levert, might not be the kind of player. But yeah, you can flip through it, look for players that fit that mold, and see who fits alongside those players. But I would disagree. I don't think it necessarily has to be a star player. Um, Although I see where you're coming from, but it sounds like they're just looking for players to fit a particular matchup.
Well, OG Ananobi did opt out for to become a free agent this offseason. He would be kind of perfect for it.
Yeah, I mean he's kind of the ultimate prototype of that, right?
Hmm.
Of somebody that 6'8" can defend and rebound. Uh, I think he would fit with a lot of teams. But so it doesn't. I'd be surprised if he didn't return to New York. It seemed like that was a good fit, and they wanted him there.
Yeah, I would agree with that, but he's probably just looking to see how much money he could get. So he then becomes. He shouldn't be a max guy, but like he might become a max guy, just because he's very very valuable right now.
that would be that would be tough. Yeah, you're right. That would be I'm like pretty foolish for NBA teams to do, but exactly right. If you're OG Anunoby, it's like it's like that's a lot of money to turn down. I don't think he'll get that. I think he returns to New York. I would be really surprised if he's playing for someone else next season.
Yeah. Um, but it would need they need a player along those terms, and then um, they do have Josh Green, but just another playmaker, scorer coming off the bench. Um, Isaiah, kind of like Isaiah Thomas was for the Suns this year, except better. Um, yeah, I would imagine the Mavs, even with their current roster state, or at least in contention to get back to the finals next year.
For me, I think if they're looking to replace Derrick Jones, then I think it has to be a defensive specialist. The more I sat here and thought about it, because I was just, and I don't know, maybe it's just an overreaction to the last series I saw, where going against Boston, because they, were
Hmm.
against when Jason Tatum wanted to get to the rim, he got to the rim. When Jaylen Brown wanted to get to the rim, he got to the rim.
Hmm.
And they, you really don't want to have Luka Doncic guarding Jason Tatum. And some of it they had it switched on, but they didn't have anybody that they could go to and say, "You go guard this guy to protect our stars." And so, um, to me, that would be what I was looking for if I were Dallas in the off season, is somebody that can go protect. uh, Luca and Kyrie in defensive situations.
Yeah. Sounds so. So now the main like objectors are uh, the main people that would prevent the Mavericks from moving on and becoming the Western Conference Finals champions again would be the Denver Nuggets, which is their next team. Um, so they have Jokic. He's wrapped up until 2026. They got 2 more years of him. Um, the Nuggets, Jamal Murray hasn't re-signed yet. He's trying to get the supermax deal by staying around. The thing is, you won't know if you'll be eligible for the supermax until the end of next year. So it's kind of a cautionary, a very, very dangerous game the Nuggets are playing by letting Jamal Murray, see if he will actually resign with them. Michael Porter Jr. He's locked up until 2027. Aaron Gordon has a player option at the end of next year. Well, at the end of next, yeah, it is in the next year because he'll either opt in, opt out. KCP is expected to opt out. Reggie Jackson is expected to opt in for his player option. Um, so if
What about
KCP,
KCP, uh, Caldwell Pope?
yeah, yeah, he's expected to opt out. So with
Really?
that, yeah, they're going to be looking. They have to get a 3-and-D wing scorer and then just another scorer coming off the bench. Um, and I really think if you can't get Jamal Murray to sign now, I don't think you wait till next year and just see if he is willing to resign. I know he's trying to get the supermax contract, but it's just too risky in my book to do that.
Well, I don't think I don't think it's Denver doesn't want it back at all. I would imagine that has something to do with. So there's at Supermax. There's provisions in there about if he makes a certain All NBA team or All Star game, an All Star, then that triggers additional money that he's available to receive from the
Yeah,
team, and so
yeah,
that might be
exactly. And
why he's
I
waiting. And so
I would be worried that if because you have to wait until the end of next year to see if they qualify for that. If
yeah,
he's not, if he doesn't qualify for that, and then it's at the end of the year and you don't have contract for Jamal Murray, there's not that much of an incentive to sign with you because there's not a supermax deal. He can get, I mean, there's still going to be a little bit more money, but it's not as much money as a supermax deal.
well, I mean, I think the obvious incentive is that are you happy here and do you want to keep playing next to Jokic? And I
Mm-hmm.
think both of those, as far as we know, are true or would be answered yes. And so I wouldn't worry too much about Jamal Murray leaving Denver. Certainly not at this moment, unless there's something behind the scenes that hasn't been leaked yet. So for Denver, I think they're one of those teams that are a legit contender. The West is absolutely brutal. They were, you know, I mean that series was back and forth against uh, Minnesota, and so uh, they probably feel like they were right there as they should, and
Mm-hmm.
so I, if I were them, I think their offseason priorities are bringing back Caldwell Pope, and then depending on what they want to do, if they want to look for a kind of copy replacement for that Reggie Jackson role, we're kind of similar to Tim Hardaway.
I know
I think
Reggie
Jackson.
Jackson's opting in. Reggie Jackson's opting in. It's a
Oh,
KCP that's opting out.
gotcha. I had him as a player option, so he's opted in. Well, okay, so that kind of limits some of their movement there. Um, but yeah, so for them, I think it's about bringing back Caldwell Pope. And gosh, I mean, as far as what other things could they add? Uh, and that's why Caldwell Pope is so important for them because he gives them another playmaker. I think it's just like a lot of other teams that they could use, uh, another playmaker like Caldwell Pope would be, interesting around Jokic. And then give Murray some relief. I mean, he was absolutely going back to that Minnesota series. He was dogged at times, and there
Mm-hmm.
really wasn't anyone else to be like, "Hey, let's get the ball into Jamal Murray's hands." They're kind of really targeting and so another player like that, or honestly, just a another defensive specialist.
Yeah.
Somebody that can go after somebody else's best player.
Yeah. So this is the part you're gonna tell me I'm crazy. I think they should trade Jamal Murray to the Warriors for Steph Curry and picks, and they get picks back from the Warriors for him. I think because like the other reason why the Timberwolves were
The
able to win
Warriors
that
just hung
series,
up on you.
the I think the reason why the Nuggets lost that series is because Murray was also hurt, and he's been consistently hurt throughout his career. I think the Warriors, if you did call them and said I would like Steph Curry for Jamal Murray, and then we get two first, I think they say yes to that because Jamal Murray's 27, about to be 28. Steph Curry's 36 and about to retire.
Oh man, yeah, and thankfully Curry doesn't have any lingering injuries either that Denver would have to worry about.
Eh, it's not
I mean,
lingering.
I just don't see, the Warriors aren't. I mean, both teams hang up like as soon as whoever brings it up. I mean, that's like you said, just that massive age difference between the two players, and I get win now, but my goodness.
Yeah, it
um,
locks you into a 3-year title window. You better win the first year you get Curry. Otherwise, then like you're really screwed.
yeah, that's just foolish. Consider I've already won a title with Murray. Like I know I can do this with Murray. Like that's not a question anymore. And so uh, for me, like that's not even something. The Warriors aren't going to trade Curry. Like that's not like at some point, like it's not even about talent. Like it just becomes like we're not trading Steph Curry. Like plain and simple. Like his his face is all the arena, or, whatever kind of thing, right? Like he said, and so I like where your head's at though, where it's like, hey, like particularly making a huge deal in trading Jamal Murray to pair a Jokic with another star, but um, I don't see that happening. I think they're better off sticking with their two that won them a championship and has won them a lot of games there in Denver, and looking to build around them and find the different pieces that can put it all together and I look to win them another championship.
Yeah, there. I feel like though you would do that deal mainly because the Warriors would be bad for 2 years as well. Because like if you would do that deal with through the Warriors, then you're trading everyone away that's on your team currently, because that's what they're looking to do anyway, and they look like they're going to be pretty awful to begin with. Um, I would do that deal if I'm the Warriors, mainly because I'm a heartless bastard. I can see the writing on the wall, and I think the Nuggets. I would do that deal for the picks, and I would get Curry so I don't lose my title window, and then I would have 2 years, if not 3 years, to find somebody to replace Curry. But that also hard caps you into a title run, which with the age of bigs, I mean, like Jokic would be 32 at the end of that. Um, and then if you don't win the title, then you're looking to trade him. So, I guess that because at the end of the day, you are getting picks to see if you can. Because you're trying to draft someone to replace Jamal Murray or Steph Curry. If you're trying to draft like that. Um, But really, I guess it puts you into a hard cap 3-year title window, but you would be the favorites for those 3 years.
I think this is more of like an internet like blog post discussion than
Mm,
like anything somebody would seriously consider.
okay.
Because like you actually have to factor in like real life stuff, like the Warriors trading Steph Curry. Like that's not like something that they would like. He's got to be untouchable for them.
Yeah,
That's
he's
not a
like
player
he is the
that is.
franchise, except if you're the Celtics, who would not care. And
But
that's
the
where I'm coming
Celtics,
from.
no, the Celtics haven't had a guy like Curry. I'm sorry.
They traded. Well, no, they were going to trade away Larry Bird. They got canned, and then they said there was a vow to never let that happen again.
I mean, I don't, maybe, if Curry really declines, but I mean,
I mean, the
I
Celtics
don't,
traded away Paul Pierce.
yeah, later on, but I mean,
Yeah, and this
they're
would
not,
be later on.
I don't think they would still view it that way.
He's 36 years old, man. Like,
Yeah, but he's still 26, 4 and 5 and 9 on 45%. Like, he's still giving
from
you,
three, yeah, I know it's crazy, but like he's gonna start declining. I can get a 27-year-old who's like an all-star, and like the Nuggets, you got 1 year left on the deal. We don't necessarily know he's gonna resign. He just probably will. Um, I mean, the other one I thought of was like that I think would probably be a no. Would be Jamal Murray. Um, Pretty much all their picks. Um, and I think was it either MPJ or Aaron Gordon for either SGA or Luca, and I think that's just a no. Um,
no,
even though even though I think if you did the Jamal Murray, Michael Porter, and all their picks for Luca, then like that would put the Mavs in a position to win the title more quickly than it would put the Nuggets in a position to win the title.
I disagree. I disagree. You, with all due respect to Jamal Murray, I mean, the drop off from Luca to Murray, I mean, so now Dallas's team is Jamal Murray and Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, but we also got MPJ. That would be like they're missing three. Um,
Yeah, but
Aaron
that
Gordon at the
completely
four.
changes their whole roster makeup. Now you're not doing a similar roster analysis. Yeah, that and then kind of similar with OKC's a little more interesting there, but they're not trading away SGA, right? Like,
Yeah,
and so like Jamal Murray's a valuable player. Like I like where your head's at there. And kind of looking to get creative and like, hey, like, what if we got another legit star next to Jokic? Like, I like where your head's at, but I just think that like when you start going head to head, Jamal Murray for some of these like big name star players, uh, is kind of where you start to see like these teams aren't trading these players,
yeah,
and that's exactly what like once you get one of those guys, you don't trade them unless you absolutely have to, or they're no longer one of those players anymore. And so that's why I think if you're Denver, you're either making a lateral move that now you're going to have to figure out chemistry again with Jokic, or you're looking to make more marginal moves because you've already got Jokic and you've already got Murray, and so now you're looking to build around those guys.
yeah. Um, at the end of the day, like I mean, I'm just saying this just because there's not much to say about the Nuggets. I do find that interesting, especially if that scenario where Jamal Murray just decides, actually, I'm not happy here. I'm going to walk off and then like sign with the Lakers or some shit like that. Happens because That's the only thing that would be interesting to happen with the Nuggets. More than likely, everyone resigns. They're going to compete for a title. Jamal Murray gets hurt in the playoffs again. That seems to happen like clockwork, and then they end up not winning a title. The only time he's ever been fully healthy, they went on to win a championship. I hope they can stay fully healthy and get to the finals and lose to my Celtics. I don't like the fact that pretty much every ring or every time someone wins a title now, as long as Jokic and Murray are in Denver, you have to put an asterisk by it because you have to say Jamal Murray was hurt, so we didn't actually get to see them win.
Yeah, I don't know about all that. I mean, that Boston won the title. Go show me a better roster. Uh, but
This, if they're
for
not hurt, like right now, their off season is going to be trying to find or trying to get KCP back or trying to find a guy that can be similar to KCP in his role. He was severely underpaid for his role, but
yeah, and looking at the draft, where they're picking there in the back half, there's not really, if Terrence Shannon Jr. from Illinois is still sitting there, that might be a player. It's a little bit older, at 6'6", 225, senior, but uh, not necessarily to replace KCP. That would be asking too much of but as far as a player that in the back half of the first round that could potentially be ready to come in and play right away, my pick would be Terrence Shannon Jr. if he's still available for Denver. Again, just looking to make improvements at the margins. That's the kind of player that 6'6", 225, his body looks ready, uh, and he can get to the rim, go get his own bucket. Uh, and so to have somebody like that coming off the bench for Denver, I would add an interesting piece for them as a rookie.
yeah. Um,
I like that since we were not sold. So yeah, I guess.
yeah. Sorry,
I
I was
thought,
just reading out the Nets are considering buying out Ben Simmons' contract, and the Celtics will be wanting to sign him. And I'm both excited about this and then also curious why they would buy him out instead of just trading him. I'm sure there's a team out there that would gladly take his talents.
interesting,
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
But yeah, I mean, like you're absolutely right in what you were saying there. It pretty much the Nuggets just need to slightly retool. I don't know if they have the cap space to get someone for that would replace KCP's role. They just kind of need to re-sign him somehow. They would, and that would kind of become an issue. With Michael Porter Jr. being a max guy, who's also chronically injured, who also plays. Michael Porter Jr. plays like if a chicken had his head cut off. Um, I never know what to expect between different plays from him. He's good defensively. He's very good offensively. Um, he is truly a firecracker, and it is kind of fun to watch him play because he's very athletic. But I just kind of hope they stay healthy. They could potentially be the champs next year, or they can wither again in the playoffs. We'll see. But we know who's definitely not going to be in the championship next year: the Detroit Pistons.
All right, all right. Well, I think we covered four teams so far, so that
No, that
might
should have been
be.
three, right?
Uh,
Nuggets,
top,
Mavs, Cavs, and Bulls. Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, that was four.
yep.
Ah, I didn't have to prep for this one.
Yeah, you just roll it around. Yeah, there we go. Oh boy, isn't that exciting? That makes you want to get up and be ready. We get
Yeah,
to talk
I mean,
about
dude,
Detroit
I
next
feel like
time.
we should cover the Pistons just because, like, they're not an actual NBA team, and I wouldn't. Uh, but yeah, you know what? Yeah, we'll just say this next time. We'll start off with the Pistons. The draft is tonight, so we'll next time we go about this, like it, will be, you know, uh,
We should
we'll
have,
know what the
yeah,
teams have picked.
have a little something to say about at least the first round, and see where Terrence Shannon ends up. That would be the guy to watch in the back half of the round. And so I guess just really briefly, just
Hmm.
if you want to do kind of, I don't know if there's any players you're watching in the draft tonight to see where they go, or any particular teams to see what kind of moves they're
Hmm.
going to make.
There's three guys I'm watching: Reed Shepard, Rob Dillingham, and Justin Edwards. Um, those three guys, I'm very interested where they go and how they play out because I feel like they'll have great NBA careers. I have not been following the mock drafts at all. It's just I've always struggled to care about that, and that's kind of I know that's very crucial for an NBA offseason review, and I know you love to do that, which is why I'm going to let you take the lead on this.
Okay, so for the next hour, point guards. No, yeah. So just Reed Shepard, we both have marked as players to watch tonight. You know, really impressed at the combine with his athleticism, and then you look on paper and you're like, you see his shooting numbers, which are off the charts, and you watch him play and you see the instinct offensively and defensively. So I'm kind of curious to see where it goes. Not quite a true point guard. Size wise, I don't know. You can certainly play him at the two against most teams. And so curious to see where he fits. A lot of San Antonio buzz. That would be, uh, uh, fascinating. A player, somebody that plays the way he does in that San Antonio system. Again, San Antonio constantly, every decision they're making here on out is how does this guy play next to Wimby, right? And so, um,
Exactly.
that would be kind of an interesting thing to watch. I guess it's similar to your guy Rob Dillingham. If they wanted to go that pick, someone suggested that they might end up taking both of your guys, Shepard at fourth, and then Dillingham at eighth if he's still sitting there.
That would be
Uh,
awesome.
and just uh, that would be interesting. That Dillingham, kind of really a shot creator, kind of throwback to some of the guys we grew up watching. The Lou Williams types. A little bit smaller, but can go get his own shot really quick. Just quickly, some of the players I'm watching. So, Reed Shepard, we had mentioned Tarek Shannon. Um, I'm interested in Mitas Buzelis, who's kind of the 6'8", 6'9", point forward. I'm always fascinated with the point forwards. He seems to have dispelled kind of shooting concerns, so that makes him to me a really interesting prospect of where he could go. Um, a forward, four man, Bobby Klintman out of Sweden. I was watching some of his tape. 6'9", 6'10", kind of stretch four type. I think he's just I've seen him mocked everywhere from like early second round to lottery. So nobody really has a good feel on him.
Oh well.
And so I'm really curious to see kind of what the people who are paid to scout and to see where they pick him, because I think he's a fascinating prospect. And so if you get a chance on YouTube, Bobby Clinton, I think it's worth watching.
Uh,
Uh,
can I ask you about Zachary Reicher? He's projected to go number one overall, and I have not heard anything about him. This is the first time I even heard his name.
Yeah, so yeah, he's kind of emerged as it's hard to say there's anyone kind of definitively number one, but he's kind of emerged as the most consistent on most mocks. You'll see either him or Sar, the two Frenchmen, as the number one overall pick, number one prospect, and you can see why. It's 6'9" wing that can go create his own shot and shoot on the move. Right, he's not just a
Hmm.
standstill shooter. Get to the rim. His length defensively, and so it's a little. He's kind of thin at 195.
Hmm.
So we'll have to put on some muscle there. But yeah, just kind of watching him play in the French league, and uh, I see why teams would take him number one overall. So that would be an interesting, for Atlanta. All right, if they're looking for a star and they're looking for that second guy, and they're like, hey, we don't think Murray's that guy, or we think that Young it can only be a second best player. We're looking for a legit one. It would make total sense if they said, you know what, we're going to roll the dice on Zachary Richey,
Yeah.
and 6'9" wing that can go create his own shot. Hey man, like let's just see, because at worst he's he's gonna replace some of the wings that we've uh, you know messed up on in the past, DeAndre Hunter just I wouldn't call him a bust by any means, but he really hasn't taken that next step that they wanted him to, and so it's like, hey, okay, we found someone to take your minutes, and so. Um, yeah, that would be why he's number one ranked overall. And so, yeah, absolutely a player to watch, and you might not have to watch too long. He might be the number one overall.
Pick. Yeah. I do want to ask you. So there are scouting reports comparing him to a French Kevin Durant. Is it because he's skinny and lanky and can score at three
Mhm.
levels that he's getting compared to Kevin Durant, or if he's actually as good as Kevin Durant?
No, 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 no. So it is, look at this, 6'9", 6'10" guy, like, lanky, 6'9" guy, like you said, scoring at all levels, being able to dribble, being able to make shots, not always standing still, but size up, dribble, pull up, shots on the move, coming off screens, and so it's like there's just not too many guys at that size who can pull off those moves consistently and score, and so. Uh, that would be where those comparisons come from, rather than a can't miss type prospect who right now it looks like your next miss prospect is Cooper Flag at Duke,
Oh
and
yeah.
then the following year AJ Dibanza he's still deciding
Yeah.
where what he wants to do.
Uh,
I don't know as far as a prospect if I would put him up with those guys. And so that's where the idea of this being a weak draft class, that's where that comes from. It's like literally in the next two draft classes, there's a player that I would want or that people would want more. As of now, that always changes. Um, but, I mean, I don't want to, disrespect him as a prospect either. I mean, there's, the reason he's getting that comparison is he's a really good player.
yeah. Um, I wasn't trying to put him down. I will say
No,
that.
no, 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 no. That was a great question. Like when you see those comparisons, like is that just because he's 6'9"? Like what I mean. And
Yeah.
there is a lot of that, right? Like Imani Bates got a lot of like he's the next Kevin Durant. It's like, well,
And
I
now he's
mean,
out of
yeah,
the league because it's just like, well, it's not that, like, he's just a 3-and-D guy that's tall. Um,
exactly. If you're trying to like, who does he remind me of when he plays?
Kevin Durant. And it's like, no, Kevin Durant does a lot more than be tall and long and score at three levels. Um, I will say, well, it's not about this. The Nets are positioning themselves. They came out today and said that they want Cooper Flag they will do everything they can possibly can to get Cooper Flag. Um, and I think the Spurs should have that same mentality because if you can get Cooper Flag with Victor Wembanyama, you're probably winning the next 12 NBA championships.
I don't know if it works out with their timeline, so you might be right, but I'm more of if they can somehow wait, and I'm kind of hoping Atlanta falls apart so we can get that get their pick and get Dibansa. But and I feel that way about him, but again, I don't think that fits the Spurs. You know, they would be tanking for an extra year, and I don't think they want to. I think they're ready to kind of start to look to win some games and see what they
Get
have.
three first overall picks.
No, no,
Have
not
Cooper
necessarily that, but
Flag,
at least
Adrian
yeah.
Batsa.
Well, more so, let's get Wimby in some playing situations and see how he responds and get that experience. So yeah, Cooper Flag. No disrespect to him, absolutely, he deserves that to have NBA teams say, yeah, like we ain't worried about winning games. We want to go get Cooper Flag because he is. I mean, again, it's super early, but he dominated. You know those Team USA youth tournaments.
Oh yeah,
Proved he was the best player in his class, and prospect wise, someone to really look forward to at 6'9". I mean, where he's at defensively for his age is incredible. Just his instincts and his ability to block shots and stay in front of people is rarely seen at his age. And combined with and what makes him so rare is combined that with his offensive ability, where he's 6'9", can shoot, can even handle the ball. In some of the scrimmages that have leaked from or that have been released, it wasn't leaked. Duke's Twitter account released it. uh, he's running the pick and roll, right? And so we'll see if if that carries over, right? Summer workouts as opposed to when they get in regular season and conference play. But by all indications, he's an incredible prospect. So I think you'll see several teams, including the Nets, decide that they want to that he's a player that you legit like tank for and try to
yeah,
hope that you can get.
exactly.
So we get the excitement of tanking back. This year there wasn't really an excitement to tanking. I think teams
Yeah, it
weren't
was just
really.
kind of like it was just depressing, and like if you were bad, it was just like there's
Yeah,
no reason to.
there's nothing to look forward to at the end of the start tunnel. Whereas I think next year and the following year, there's going to be prospects where it's like, yeah, you want to tank for that guy. It could be worth it if you end up if that lottery ball bounces to number one your way.
Yeah, exactly. Right now, I'm playing Reed Shepherd highlights to remind me of good times as a Kentucky fan, um, and also to remind myself that John Calipari had that guy coming off the bench, and we never we never started the guys that are going to go not 1 and 2, 3 and 4 in the NBA draft.
Yeah, that's going to be an explanation for years to come. But yeah, so just from that clip, well, I don't know if people can see it. Uh,
I
so I
do
don't
not
know.
have the rights to it. Go ahead and just keep talking about it, though.
Well, no, if they can't see it, it's pointless. But some of the other prospects I was looking at, so just some of the guards. So Dillingham is interesting as well. Um, Stephon Castle from Connecticut's gotten a lot of buzz. Um, a lot of folks talking about how they, watching Holiday in the finals just switch on everyone and rebound, and they feel like Stephon Castle could be that kind of player to uh, play offensively, but then at the same time lock down defensively. I'm a big Devin Carter guy. Providence was relevant in basketball and was competing for a tournament spot because
Yeah,
he was on the team. Like he was Providence basketball this season, and so a really impressive player. Um, Scouting it, Carrington from Pittsburgh. I think is a player to watch. I think at 6'4", 195, has some interesting shot making and playmaking ability as a bigger guard. Um, there was one more player I was watching. I mentioned Buzelis. Um, Ron Holland, if he can fix his jump shot, Ron Holland was one of the best. Some sites had him as the best player
Yeah.
coming out of high school. So he's a blue chip
So,
prospect, but really struggled G League Ignite, and there's some serious questions about his jump shot, which would
uh,
affect how high you could take a player in this game in today's
I
game.
saw that the Spurs were wanting to trade up to make sure they got Alex Sarr, which that's the first I've heard of anyone wanting to trade up in this draft. What makes Alex Sarr such a good prospect that the Spurs believe that they need to have him?
Saar is 7 foot with a 9'2" standing reach,
Oh
so he's
wow,
huge. He's mobile, quick, and explosive. On top of that, right? And so he's high level switchability. So it's like he's not some big lug. He's 7 foot 224. So he's got some mobility to him. Uh, Still working on kind of some other parts of his game. Ball handling and shooting and passing. And so, but yeah, teams have still had him listed some mocks as the number one overall prospect because he's like this 7 foot athlete kind of player,
yeah,
and so it would be an interesting pairing along Wimby.
yeah, because I can see
Uh,
him as a four, like running the floor kind of with him. He's clearly not. Um, I'm watching highlights of him right now. He's definitely not on the same level as Victor Wembanyama, but he is definitely an athletic freak.
and so maybe there's an idea of San Antonio. There were some talks that Wimby needed to play along a center uh, with kind of how slender he is, and maybe that's a way to save his body is to pair him with another big. Um, I kind of appreciate more of the spacing around him, but the potential there. SAR's like hey, I feel like I can develop a jump shot out to the 3 point line.
Yeah,
Then you're kind of watching here where it's like, okay, he's athletic enough to do whatever he wants, right?
yeah,
And so if he adds, I mean, look at it. I mean, I encourage everyone to go on YouTube and kind of see some clips of what he's comfortable doing and what he shows flashes of, and that's what scouts probably saw as well as they see this 7 footer flying around the court, and it's like this guy is, he's not just athletically rim running. He's like able to uh, cover a lot of ground and cut from the perimeter and find places to even drive at times. And so, still going to work on that at the next level, but that's the potential.
yeah. I agree. He has a very smooth jump shot. Um, I could see him developing it further. Maybe that was just the clip I saw, but it looks nice. Has a good form to it. Very doesn't stick. Does not. It's not a Draymond Green backpack jumper. I could see him developing that, and I could see why the Spurs want him. Um, I'm now playing Holland uh, tapes here, highlights. Um, see how you feel about him.
Oh, one more big. Nobody plays this way anymore, so I don't know if he gets drafted. But Nafali Dante out of Oregon, 6'11", kind of 260, 270, just a big body. I watched him on several occasions, get upwards of 15 rebounds in a game. I saw him get 22 against Georgia. early in one of Oregon's early season games, and was another top prospect coming out of high school. And again, just nobody really plays, dump it down to the big and watch him muscle by somebody anymore.
Hmm.
And he's not, uh, he's a little shorter than 7 foot at 6'10", 6'11", and he's, not really going to protect the rim with any athleticism.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't really fit what teams are trying to do. But I do think in a particular role, um, if you're looking for a big body, I think he feels that, and rebounding is always key when you're trying to win games, and so I think he does have some offensive skill as well. So, and, maybe tomorrow he'd be someone to watch in the second round, see if somebody takes a chance on him,
Yeah.
see how he does in the summer league. And then
Sorry.
last,
Watching the clips of him, he looks very flat-footed. He's definitely not explosively athletic. And looks like Oregon was just like, "Hey, you're just gonna be our mop-up guy." He's very strong, looking
yes,
like it.
very strong.
And
But
he
you can,
kind of reminds me of like a bigger Oscar Sheboy.
yes, absolutely. That's a really good comparison where he's just big, like, and that's like a skill in a way, like, you know, and so he'd be, he's a load to handle underneath the basket. He's just, not too much above the rim, and yeah, flat footed is a pretty, yeah, he's not explosive kind of,
Hmm.
and so that may get him against more athletic centers in the league, but. I think he's a pretty good player that could fit up, a backup center role in the second round if that's what you're looking to draft.
Yeah,
Because he is, as far as rebounding, kind of a poor man's Andre Drummond kind of type of player.
100%.
And as far as I see, Drummond still has a role in the league.
Yeah. Um, I want to ask you about Rob Dillingham. Give me a little. He's gonna go. He is projected to go 11th to the Bulls.
Hmm? Oh gosh, the Bulls, are they just going to play five guards?
Yeah, that's
I,
all I need.
oh, they've already given up on some of their prospects. Uh, the you know Rob Dillingham, he's listed as 6'3", 160 something, I believe, 170.
Yeah,
So
probably less than
he's
that.
not he's not a big guard. So some of his wingspan is going to have to carry him there, and that hurt him defensively, and that hurt Kentucky defensively, and so there was a lot of debate on Kentucky insiders and those who really analyze the game, kind of your basketball side of the media at Kentucky. There was a debate that Dillingham has all the scoring, but defensively he at times he absolutely died on ball screens. I mean he could not get
Mm-hmm.
over a ball screen consistently. And so, just and some of the decision making aspects, some just the shot selection, some crazy turnovers, where there were some questions of is he really just kind of a net neutral and at times a net negative, where it's like yeah he's doing some really cool shots, but um, the flip side is, man, in the league, I get to play with pace and space with an even larger court. Nobody in college basketball can stay in front of him. And his
Mm-hmm.
ability, like, yeah, you're going to see, like, his dribbling and his, step back and shot creation. But even at his size, getting to the rim, I mean, his ability to finish, he's at his age already has some really good moves to finish around the bigs. So he's an interesting prospect. I'm glad you highlighted him at the beginning as someone to watch because he is really small and somewhat of a controversial prospect. With you watch his tape and it's like, well, he's not giving me much defensively, and he's not. What are some of these shots and turnovers? And so you'll find some that say, I don't really know if he's really a net positive. I would argue he is. I was on that side of the debate a lot all season,
Mm-hmm.
and that man, what he gives you offensively, there's just not anybody that can stay in front of him, and there's just some other flaws on Kentucky's team that really exposed his flaws, and maybe for Kentucky in particular, there was an argument that he was a net negative. But on if you're just looking to draft him as a prospect, I don't think he's someone that you would try to build around. But as long as you have more of a defensive foundation than what Kentucky had this year, which isn't hard to do, you would he should be fine, and I think he'll be might be the funnest prospect in this class. I mean, if you're just looking for somebody to watch in the summer league, absolutely
Oh, 100%. He's gonna
find
be
out what
fun.
Dillingham is and go watch him play. I mean, he's really fun to watch, and so super excited to see how his career pans out, man. I really hope we get to see the best version of him because he's really fun to watch. I mean, he just plays with a lot of fun, man. Like you can tell, it's just fun to be out there, and he'll just do whatever. And that drives him crazy, but when it works, it's like, oh my gosh, that behind the back pass, or oh, he saw that, like I didn't see that, and what a shot, like
Mm-hmm.
he threw it behind his head and it went in somehow, right? And just those things. So he's really fun to watch when it all comes together.
Yeah. Um, is there any other prospects you want to talk about?
I kind of went through the ones that I would advise that I'm looking for tonight. You talked me into. I'll add Rob Dillingham to my list. So just kind of briefly
Yeah.
looking at the guards. Keep an eye on Rob Dillingham, Devin Carter, and Bub Carrington from Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
Your two guard Shepard is listed as a two
Mm-hmm.
guard as is Terrence Shannon Jr. And then kind of your wing stretch four types, looking for Matas Buzelis, uh, and I think you wanted to add the other number one overall guy, Zachary Richey. We'll see where he goes. Um, and Ron Holland will be interesting if he can get that jump shot added. And then kind of your stretch four types, I would add Bobby Klintman from Sweden, and then you added Alex Sarr. Is obviously someone that you would want to watch going up in the top of the draft, and the bigs for tomorrow in the second round are kind of those undrafted guys, Nafali Dante out of Oregon.
Yeah. Um, so I want to ask you before we get out of here because he is projected to go number 4 to your San Antonio Spurs, Stephon Castle out of Connecticut.
Sure, absolutely. I would totally be fine with that. 6'6", can create his own shot. You know, get after it defensively, and so uh, yeah, I think a lot of players watched the finals and they watched uh, and they watched the playoffs and they watched Holiday and they watched how important perimeter defense was. And they said, I want to go get a perimeter defender that can also score. And you're watching, looking at the prospects, and you say, well, who fits that best? Well, Stephon Castle fits that mold the best of the prospects. And so that's why he's looked at as one of the top prospects. So absolutely, again, all decisions are how does this guy pair with Wimby, and yeah, he pairs really well. I mean, he
To say
fits
the least.
literally anywhere. And say, hey, I can defend, and then I can also create my own shot at 6'6". So Now, there was some talk of maybe Atlanta at number one because it's like, we can't go wrong with the spec.
Yeah, you literally can, man. Because there's not all these guys are somewhat similar. All of them have upsides. They all have clear downsides. Reed Shepard to me is the most weird one in there. I love Reed Shepard and I love Rob Dillingham. To me, they feel like they should be later lottery picks. Reed Shepard does know the game really well and does shoot very well, and but he is not that amazing on ball. You can take him off the ball really easily.
Yeah.
Everyone here is very raw except for Castle. It's just like you don't know, I guess, what his ceiling is. But hey, he looks pretty good. I would take him one, but I'm not drafting. It's not my job. Yeah, there. I don't know what else you got going on today. I'm about to go to the gym, get swole, and then have some Chick-fil-A as a celebration.
Absolutely. I'll head into second job at night. So
We got 2 jobs now?
yeah. So that's where I'll be.
No, that sucks, man. Hey.
This was a nice little, be able to just sit back, talk some ball. I'll reflect on this as I'm sitting there at work.
Well, we'll see the draft tonight.
Yeah. I'll try to pull that on.
When will you be available to talk again? Because we got to talk about the Detroit Pistons.
Oh, so looking forward to that. Yeah, we'll work that out, and we'll probably somewhere around Saturday. We'll look to be able to do something. I got some time in the afternoon.
Sounds good. I will say, so you know how they added football, like American football, to the Olympics?
I did not see this.
They
They
did.
added American football.
So they have. You won't see it actually a part of the Olympics. They're just going to give the medal for it because they have to space out the games a week. Right now, the U.S. is playing Japan. They are trailing 27-7 as it goes to halftime.
USA is.
The U.S. is trailing Japan.
What? Okay, they did one of those things. Who's playing? Who's playing in that thing? I know you said USA and Japan, but I'm like, who's starting quarterback? Like, I mean, do we know any of these people?
I don't know, man. I gotta see. I think it's under 18. I really hope they put at least some D1 college players on this. I gotta see what the age is. Like, if we're losing to Japan, either Japan got some studs or we're fucking throwing.
I mean, I don't know. They just put a bunch of high school kids together.
That's what it sounds like. That's what the comments are saying on this tweet. I'm trying to find this game. We can't be losing.
This will go well. Let's just get a bunch of under 17 kids in high school. They're not doing anything because the college kids are you might have trouble because they're like competing for spots and like getting ready, trying to get their draft stock up, putting some work in the offseason. They can't get hurt. Like, imagine if like Deion Walker got hurt, like in this game, this game.
Then he was doing it for America. I don't want to hear any excuses.
Like who? Yeah, I'm trying to think of who the number one quarterback prospect will be coming out this. Quinn Ewers from Texas is that? I haven't looked at the latest mock draft, but that's just what came to my mind. So please don't.
Yeah, I think so.
I know he's like one of the. He's in the conversation, isn't he? I'm not too far off, am I?
Probably, I don't know. I really don't think.
Let's just say it was Quinn Ewers. Like, he's not playing in this thing. Like, he's got a season to get ready for. Like, we're kicking off.
I think you should, but like even then, I feel like if we're just doing like, just mid college players, like they should be wiping the floor with Japan. So I'm trying to find this game. I need to find where this is live at because I've always wanted to yell and be belligerently drunk while watching football while supporting my nation. I need to feel patriotic,
You didn't get that experience.
I
You get
need the
that experience.
excuse.
Yeah, I don't. I'm gonna look that one up. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what that game is. I don't know if if we're really doing the Olympics here.
Well, I know we are because I saw Canada beat a team 110 to nothing.
Canadian Football League paying off.
Yeah, well they beat Brazil.
Yeah, they were confused as to which football was. Okay,
Yeah.
the Dream Bowl.
This happened. I know this happens ever since 1945 because I know Japan's actually been playing American football for a long time, along with baseball. This kind of happened whenever the U.S. When we nuked them and we're like occupying them, we wanted to make
Okay, gotcha.
Americanize them.
This is we're watching diplomacy in action.
Yes, this is a
It's
Dream
like,
Bowl. It's happened every year since 1945. I didn't know that. I didn't know it was an Ivy League school, particularly, but I do know that an American team plays Japan every year, and I didn't know that we would lose these. So maybe Japan is just good at football, and we haven't. We've just been sleeping on Japanese football.
could be. I know. Got a lot of respect. The kind of Samoan Pacific Islander players. I tend to get a lot of respect here in the U.S. Apparently, Canada would need to be, or Japan would need to be maybe drafting their players.
Yeah.
But again, I have no idea who any context for the game. It sounds like we're both like trying to find.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the game itself. I know they played Brazil the other day and they beat them 110 to nothing.
Yeah, like everything's on like a YouTube channel or something, right? Like
Yeah.
stream, right? We got country versus country going on here.
So it's under 20, so this would be college kids. World Championships.
Oh wow, this is a thing. So presumably that if that's a whole broadcast, that would be who would have that game. So I would click through on that channel profile and see if they're
FAF.
yeah.
Because we can't. Oh, this is the highlights channel. Alright, let's see what happens here. Yep. Oh, the Brazilians get a first here. They're driving. And, yeah that's like my Southern Middle team.
You got to hit the hole. Where, sir? Oh gosh.
That's pass interference right there. What is it?
That was a mesh route where all four players ran into each other.
Yeah. Oh, that was dirty. Oh, he fumbled it.
Oh!
Oh, he got it.
All right. We're just messing around at this point.
It really is. Alright.
All right, big dog.
Alright, peace,
I'm gonna
bro. I forgot about. I remember watching this live. Yeah, I mean we're good to go. By the way, I'm just going down memory lane by myself.
All right, big
Peace,
dog.
bro. You have a good day. All right. Let's end.